It matters not how straight the gate, or how charged with punishments the scroll, for I am the master of my fate, I am the captain of my soul. Those powerful words are from the poem Invictus, which was written about the subject of tonight's show on the power of one. You know, so many people tell me they want to change the world. So many people have big goals they want to achieve. But here's a key question for you. How committed are you to your objective? We are standing in a place called Nelson Mandela Square because a gentleman named Nelson Mandela many years ago was completely convicted to what he believed in. Obviously, I'm sure many of you know the story, but he was an agent for change. He was working to get rid of apartheid in South Africa. Certainly one of the worst things that's ever happened to any peoples anywhere in the world. And he was arrested for what he believed in. He was working to get rid of the apartheid government. He was arrested and sent to a place named Robben Island for 27 years. And Robben Island, before it became a prison, was a leper colony. And needless to say, he was not treated very well there at all. Now, how many of us have had somebody in our life who has wronged us with something much less than what Nelson Mandela had to endure? No beatings, none of the horrible atrocities that happened to him while he was in prison. Just someone who's been mean to us, or someone who stole a little something from us, or whatever. And we have no place for forgiveness in our hearts. We are overcome with hatred. Well, Nelson Mandela has done many, many things, but probably the thing that impresses me the most is when he got out of 27 years in prison because of something he simply believed in and was passionate about. When he came back into public life and was elected as the first truly free president of South Africa, instead of summoning up all that anger and hatred of what was done to him, he was still committed to his original goal. He was not allowed, he didn't let the people who beat him and did whatever they did to him to get him off track from his original objective, which was to get rid of racism in his country. Well, remarkably, he was able to do so with peace. If he had had a different attitude, this country could have turned into a complete bloodbath. But instead, if any of you have seen the movie Invictus, which was obviously named after the poem, one of the most brilliant things he did was when they brought the Rugby World Cup to this country for the first time in forever. Because if you don't know it, because of apartheid, they had had no international sports in this country up until the time that Mandela was elected. And they got rid of apartheid. So for the first time ever, the World Cup, or in a long time, the World Cup came here, and he personally led the team onto the field with the green and white jerseys, which were the colors of the previous people who had been in charge, the people who came up and the people who were in charge of apartheid. So it's remarkable that he was intelligent enough, and he was humble enough, and he was passionate enough about his beliefs to not have to be right. See, how many people right now watching this video, you're in a conflict with someone and you've got to be right. Well, Nelson Mandela could have done, he had all the reason in the world to be nasty and bitter, but he didn't need to be right. He stayed true to what his primary objective was, which was to bring freedom and peace to the people. An amazing person, Nelson Mandela. And in closing, I'll share with you an amazing quote. I looked through so many of his quotes to try to come up with the appropriate thing to end our show with. And the one that really stood out to me is, it always seems impossible until it is done. Think about what he actually achieved. It seemed beyond impossible. He was able to liberate an entire nation, much more like Martin Luther King did in the United States, but even to a much, much greater degree and a much more difficult task here in South Africa. An amazing person who was able to do amazing things with just his heart and his passion and his belief. Nelson Mandela, an amazing example of the power of one.